To the cloud. So welcome. Hi, everyone. My name is Siobhan, and that was your, we had a really magical intro here because I forgot. That song does take forever to kick in, but that's okay. That was like really dramatic and like, you know, mystical feeling as we get into a home studio, that's exactly what happens, right? When we get into our home studios. So here at Edge Studio, we bring you another episode of the Home Studio Show and Tell. My name is Siobhan. As I've said, I am your host. If this is probably not your first time on Zoom, but someone is, nope. So if it's your first time, some people are, it seems like it is, you can watch this session in your gallery mode, and you can click on that by your top right view corner. You can also watch in speaker. However, as this is a home studio session, I will be spotlighting and guiding your experience a bit for you. Also, we are navigating this experience very much through the chat. And so everything you want to discuss and talk about, questions you want to give our panelists today will definitely be also through the chat, which I will facilitate on over. We have two wonderful guests joining us this evening. My goodness, I don't know if anybody is like feeling like I have like no idea what time it is. I was last time I was with you all, it was like 2 a.m. in London. So I have not recovered from the jet lag, but I'm here. I'm present and I'm alive, and I am next to our Chief Edge Officer, David Goldberg. How are you doing?
Siobhan, it's great to see you, and I am super excited for this episode of Home Studio Show and Tell. We have two fabulous voice actors. Siobhan will introduce them officially in a moment, but I'm certainly anxious to see inside their studios. I'm sure you are. So yeah, hi everyone.
Hello. Thank you, David. All right. So yes, so the purpose of this event is to showcase home studios of voice actors all around the world, as it were. And we've gone global before. We've definitely showcased from Israel, and we're traveling far away from there today to showcase our guests tonight. And just for your information, again, if this is your first time, we're here to discuss the studios of our two guests and to showcase and explore what's going on there. We can ask lots of questions to our guests about their specific spaces. What will be challenging / not really possible to do today is to answer really specific questions regarding your home studio spaces. So I think everybody's pretty understanding of that. It's just way too specific to get into the details of what might work for you, but hopefully you can learn things and get inspiration of what works for our guests tonight. So with that being said, yeah, let's get this going. I will first bring to the Zoom stage. We'll do a little Zoom magic here and spotlighting myself and Mr. Jason Bermingham. There he is. Hello. A little welcoming for you.
Oh, Jason, you're muted.
Hi, Jason.
Uh-oh.
Ooh, magical.
Yeah, what's weird, everyone, is we all got on quite a bit, quite a while ago and tested everyone's mics and cameras, and everything was excellent. Jason is saying one moment.
Mm-hmm.
He's pointing at something.
I see what's happening. It's Is that helpful, Jason? You know what? And then maybe, I don't know why I can't. I'll go ahead and remove my spotlight, and then I will. I don't know why I can't spotlight this one.
Siobhan, someone is texting. It is a host permission issue. Oh, I think is that Jason posting? Yeah, he's not able to unmute. That's interesting, Siobhan, because you said you had a hard time like the unmute was not working correctly today.
He is okay. Here we go. I'll just go back to the gallery. Oh, Why were you not a co? Okay, well now you're a co-host again. Welcome.
Aha.
Welcome back. All right, you know what? Hold on. You everybody hold. We're just gonna like redo. Jason Bermingham, everyone. Yeah.
Thank you. Devon, you were a DJ at some point in your life, I bet, right? I mean, we were talking about Pink Floyd, and in like 2 seconds, she found the song, brought it up. Amazing.
You know, I just love a party.
I know. It's so you're so good at this and you make it so dynamic. So thank you. David, thank you for the invitation. I'm bundled up for the cold today because it's June, but I'm in Brazil and it's actually gotten really cold here. So, but I'm in my studio. And I talked to David and Siobhan, and what I wanted to do is kind of talk a little bit about the evolution of my studio, which was really related to Edge, because when I started my work in voiceover, when I came to Brazil, I'm from California, but I've been in Brazil for 20 years. And originally I was working with television. I was part of a country music television, and I met my wife, and she was on air hostess. And she brought me into the voiceover world. But what we were used to at that time was the video component of it. I think I'm getting a little bit of feedback. Let's see if it's
Yeah, Siobhan, can you find out whose mic is
Yeah.
open somewhere?
I'm on it.
Thank you.
I think I got it.
Did it? Oh, here we go. So what I was hoping to talk a little bit about today isn't just, and I'm going to show you around, but what this studio where we are is on the 9th floor of a building in the center of kind of close to the center of Sao Paulo. So it's a big city, 20 million people. And we have been working out of this studio for probably about 15 years now. It started out very simple. This room where I'm at right now was actually kind of in the center of the apartment, and it was the quietest room. It didn't have a window, it just had one door. So it made for a good, quiet place, but it wasn't acoustically treated. So at the beginning of my voiceover career, we would use like moving blankets, and we would kind of use bookshelves and different things. And in 2011, I actually ended up writing a couple of articles for Sound on Sound magazine about how to build a home studio. And so as I was doing the research, I realized that we needed to kind of up our game. And that's when we built this booth, which is actually, it's away from the walls. So it's acoustically treated, it's quiet. If we get any noise from the building, like people pounding on the walls or our neighbors' dogs barking, it cuts all of that out. But what we really focused on, especially during the pandemic, was the video component, because we realized we were working with a lot of our clients like we are right now on, kind of face to face. So we started installing lights, ring lights, and I'm going to show you around, but we started really paying attention to what our clients were seeing. And not only, the space behind us, but there's a couple cameras we have around. So for example, we have a second room, and I'm going to show you the second room where I actually edit. And so I'll be working in the editing room. Simone, my wife, who also works in voiceover, will be in the booth, and I'll be recording her, but she'll be able to see on these screens that I'll show you her clients, they can see her. So it just makes the whole process much more user-friendly. You can see the people clearly, it looks professional. And we realized that was, for us, just as important as sending out really good quality audio. And so if you have any questions as we're talking about this, please just throw them in the chat, and Siobhan and David will send them our way. But with that, we can begin if you like.
Okay, so are we going to look at your recording studio now? Is that the move?
I think so. Let me see if this works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop video and mute myself here.
Yep. Beautiful AI imagery. We love it.
So right now he's probably getting on his phone, but
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
All right, can you see me?
Oh yeah, there you are.
All right, so what we'll do is I'll switch around. And now you get to see behind the scenes. So first of all, this is our guard dog, Nina. She protects the studio. And you can see that what we've done is we've put up these lights. We have the ring light. We actually have a light underneath the computer as well. So that gives it kind of a light coming up so you can, you get good light from above and below. And that's been really helpful. I have 3 arms. So what I can do is if I want to set up different mics, it's really easy just to kind of switch them out. This is one of the mics that I use the most. I really like it. It's the Soyuz mics. It's actually a Russian company, and they hand make these mics. And I've been using this Soyuz, I think it's a 019 for probably about a year, and I really like it. So here is where we record. This is the corner. This is a TLM 67, and it's very similar to the Soyuz, the sound, I think. We have all of our scripts, we use Dropbox, and I just have a folder that I drop everything into. And then we can, I can communicate from the other room that you're going to see. And we do it all digitally because we were just using so much paper that it just got easier. This second screen over here is when Simone's recording, she'll look over here and we'll have like a Zoom set up here. There's a camera on top. So the client can see her recording, she can see the client, and she can also communicate with me in the other room. So this, again, we have a diffuser behind, just the acoustic panels. The panels up above are kind of uneven, which has a little bit of a, kind of the diffusion. The panels here, kind of a storage area over there, which works, we keep all of our mics and stuff there, and that just keeps it kind of organized. This works as a bass trap, and then the studio door comes out to our hallway in our apartment. And then if you just come over here, this is where I edit. Again, we use the lighting because that way, if I'm on the camera over here, the lighting comes down and it just allows me the client to get a good image of what we're working. This whole area communicates openly with the booth. So if I put on these headphones, for example, I can communicate with Simone while she's recording. The 2 preamps I really like are the M5 and the Avalon 737, of course. I used to have them over here on the rack, but what I realized is that with these 2 preamps, especially the 737, it's just nice to have all these dials right in front of you. So on Sweetwater, I went and bought these desktop racks, and they really made a big difference. 2 sets of monitors, the Neumanns and the Genelix. I really like Adobe Audition for editing. I've always used it, and it's part of the suite, so that way you get Photoshop and Premiere and all these other great things. The Apollo is my go-to interface, though I admit I just bought the MT 48, the new Neumann interface, because I'm really curious to see what it sounds like. Apparently, it's going to be one of the best on the market. And that's pretty much it. But, the voiceover reading material, I don't know if there's any Elden Ring players out there. My little Elden Ring figurine. And from here, Nina's wiped out. And it's just back into the booth. So that just kind of gives you an overview of what we've done with the space. And this is all just in our apartment. So there's a much bigger area beyond this, but it's all our living area. So this is our work area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch back to the other and talk directly again. Just one sec.
Oh my goodness. I am, that was stunning. I don't know if anybody else also, Like, my first question is, Jason, is your apartment huge? Because that space seemed like, how big, like, do you have a big space? Like,
It's not really that big. It's about 120 square meters, which I'm not sure how much that would translate to feet. But this area the booth was kind of a storage area. So it was, when you're looking for a recording area, that's kind of the first thing you're looking for, is the quietest part of this, the house. So we didn't use it for anything, and it just kind of evolved into a booth. But I realized that it's hard to edit and spend your day working in a room that has no windows, right? So I moved over to that room, which is kind of our guest room, and made it into my editing room. And so and then we moved the guest room to another spot, but it's not that big. It's just, it's two rooms basically. And I think there's something to be said about kind of working out where you're from where you record, unless you have if you're lucky and you have a really well-treated room with a window, then, that's the best of all situations. There we go. Somebody did it for me. So yeah, so it's just over 1,000 square feet, probably about 1,200 square feet.
That is the apartment, or that is your studio? I'm assuming your apartment.
That's our apartment. One day I'll have it.
Jason, where do you purchase the arms from? They look sturdy.
Yeah, those are the Rode arms. The Rode, microphone arms. They're really, really good. They're too good actually, because when you take the mics off, it'll like punch you. It's just like it's spring mounted. But I've been using them for a long time, and you can put whatever mic you have, and you just kind of pull it. Like this mic, for example, this is one of my favorites. It's a soup can mic. If one of your client asks you to make your voice sound like you're talking inside of a can, you have it right here. So you can just pull whatever tools you need out of right from here, and it impresses the client. It makes it look like you got a bunch of gear.
Where do you store your microphones when they're not on the arms?
Somewhere where my wife won't find them and sell them. You've got too many microphones. Why do you need so many microphones? Yeah, I usually just keep them right here, but you got to keep them. I mean, there are lockers for mics, and I kind of switch them out. So I always try to use them. One of the reasons I use the TLM 67, I used to have the U87, which is a more popular mic. But where we live in the city, it's high up, and there's so much radio interference on the U87. I just couldn't get rid of it. But with the 67, the TLM 67, I wasn't getting any radio interference at all. So it really helped in that sense.
Keeping on with the questions, do you have any sound treatment in the editing room for hearing playback from the monitors?
Yeah, that's a great question. The editing room, what I did is this booth was really well treated before we redid it. So I took everything that was here and I put it in the editing room. So it's got bass traps, but it's foam. It's just kind of your standard foam that you can buy. It's got the clouds, the kind of the cloud that suspends from the ceiling. But home studios, it's an organic process. It's just like you just got to do it one day at a time and just kind of adjust as you go. Like I showed you those desk racks that I bought. They're so nice because I can just work on them, but there's like this weird resonance now. It's like I can hear it when I'm recording and it bothers me. So now I got to take it all apart and try to figure out what's rattling in there, what's resonating. So it's just kind of like build and learn, learn as you go.
Jason, you're talking about the wood racks having some resonance, but that is in your editing room. So the question is, do you record in the editing room?
Yeah, I do. Sometimes what I've done is I'll use like this mic that I'm using here and that TLM 67 sound really similar. So sometimes if I'm just doing a pickup and I don't want to come all the way back here and just like re-record it here, I've worked that room enough where I can do it there. So, and sometimes if I'm just lazy, I'll just like sit there and record right there because it sounds good. But usually it's like if it's something that's going to go to air and I really want it to make sure it's spot on, then I'll come here and do it here.
Do you and Simone ever record at the same time?
No, I usually direct her and record. She records in Portuguese. I record just in English. But usually we've done a few things together, But usually we have different schedules. So usually I'll do my stuff in the morning. She does most of her stuff in the afternoon. So it's worked out. So far it's worked out really nice.
Okay, so
Do you
Siobhan,
find that your diffuser has an effect of livening up a small room as opposed to not having it? It's a high frequency diffuser. Yes, I have considered getting some diffusers in my space, which is fairly small.
Yeah,
Period.
I think the risk when you have a small space is just overdoing it with the foam or the absorption, because it can really deaden. You don't want to suck all the life out of your voice, and you don't want to get that boxy sound. So the diffuser, the wood, it kind of adds a little bit of life. I think you can hear it in the voice. It just sounds a little bit more natural. But there's a lot of ways to do diffusion. You can just put a nice bookshelf behind you, or the the good thing about audio is the more cluttered the room, sometimes the better it sounds. But that is problematic if your clients are seeing the room. So then that's where we've been trying to figure out, kind of finding that balance.
Okay, where did you get your pop filter? Because it is very fashionable. Your whole studio is so stylish.
Thank you. Yes,
Yeah.
that was a part of the process too.
Yes.
This is, I can't remember the name of it. It's from Germany. It's really expensive. And I just was curious if it sounded better because it costs more, and it doesn't, but it looks nice. So
The age-old, question in capital and buying things. Okay, just because, how about the on-air button? What's the deal? The light you've got in the back.
again, I was in Austin, Texas one day, and I found this guy that does these great on-air signs, and I just loved it. I thought it looked kind of retro. And so we put it behind us. It has no purpose other than to look like we're in a recording studio. I should put one outside, that's the proper place. But I just thought it looked cool in the background.
But it's gorgeous. Again, you were talking about video, and would you say that having like because it's clear you've put effort and energy into the aesthetic of your space. Would you say that has, like, I don't know if I want to use the word, been profitable, or do you think that that's overall good for your brand? Can you talk a little bit about that a little more? Because I'm curious.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, my target market is the international market. And so it's really tough because often rarely do I record in the studios of my clients. And so, especially when you're meeting a new client or doing a new job, they have no idea who you are. And it used to be that, oh, don't put your picture on your website, don't really show too much because it kind of breaks the spell. But I think today, no, I think everyone's a content creator now. Everyone has a YouTube channel. And so people need to see you. They need to get a feeling for what you're doing. And if your space looks professional, and not just the gear, but if it's clean, it's not cluttered, there's good lighting, and it just conveys more this impression that you're gonna do a good job, and they'll trust you more, and it just helps build that relationship. It shows that you take it seriously. And so, like I said at the beginning, that's something we've worked in parallel, the video and the audio.
Mm-hmm. Is this your and Simone's vision together, or is one more aesthetic oriented than the other?
Well, I would tell you, but I just remember this is going to be on YouTube, and you can watch it. So it's very much both of us really focusing on the aesthetics.
Great
No,
answer.
Simone trusts me. She's very nice about it. She knows that. She just, as long as she never asked me how much things cost, because she's learned not to do that anymore. But because sometimes we get this gear thing going where you just have to have one more thing, and it really makes no difference in the end result, but you have to have it. So it's nice when you talk about the video, because you can convince, buy a sign, buy a pop filter, and buy all of this. But it really does. I'm joking, but at the same time, I'm serious. It really does. It really has helped our business, especially during the pandemic when we were doing so much work like this. And I think we made so many new clients, and clients, that we've kept. And so I'm glad that we made that effort.
They call it retail therapy for a real reason. But Lorna is asking, what type of microphone isolation shield do you have?
I have the behind me, that's the what is that called? I just completely forgot the name of it. The reflection filter, the SC electronics reflection filter. Um, they work really well if you're in a tree. I think if you have a treated room, and David knows much more about this than I do, but if you have a treated room and you use those filters, they work really well. But if you're in an untreated room, it's not gonna do much, you know. And so
Mm,
then kind of have to kind of work your way to it. Start with the walls, start with the space, and then once that's all taken care of, then you can kind of fine tune it with your reflection filter.
mm, mm. Okay, amazing. Wow, okay, I think I have time for one more. Besides editing, do you treat the VO before sending it to clients with EQ and de-essers and things like that?
Yeah, that's a tricky one because it really depends on the client. If I'm recording for a audio production company, I'll ask them if they want it. Usually they don't because they're going to do it themselves. Um, but you know, we do when it's a video production company, or if I think the client isn't going to do anything, then I'll send it out. Sometimes it's so easy to send two options. So I said this is the raw file and this is the processed if you want to compare them. And you know, this we talked before about AI, and it's really helping with editing because there's a lot of like there's an app called Hush, and it's for Apple. It's Hush, and it when you're on the road, like Simone's traveling today, you know, she's sending me stuff that she's recording in the hotel room, and I'm able to kind of get close to what we're doing here in the studio.
Mm.
So you know, the editing is, again, it's a kind of a learning process, and there's so many new tools out there, and I'm trying them all out. I'm trying to try them all out to see, you know, which ones work the best.
Mm, amazing. Jason, thank you so much. That was a fabulous
Ooh.
tour of a beautiful space. I know we have more questions for you, and y'all, I will get to them. I just want to run this program, you know, the way we do. Truly, Jason is a friend of mine, and it's really wonderful to get to share a Zoom room with him, even if, alas, not in person. So thank you. So very much appreciate
Well, just one last thing. You nailed the look. I love that look of you got the chair going, the lights in the background, clean space. That's what it's about.
yeah, this is my, I mean, one day I'll show you my my setup, but not today. This is my little meetings corner here. Dreams of a larger space where my studio will be like yours, Jason. But for now, yeah, it's true. I believe in it too. We love an aesthetic here. It's another reason why we're pals. But thank you. Thanks,
Yeah,
y'all.
that was so cool, Jason. I just want to show everyone. So, Jason, you have the on air, right? The little emblems in the back, the lights. I have this. Can you guys read it? Or is it
Oh,
backward? Maybe I should hold it backward.
it says quiet, please, and then it says recording in progress.
Yeah. So,
And
you know, I'm in my home office. It's not a studio, but I use this thing. I turn it on with a remote switch. So my kids don't come running in here like when they get home from school, like dad, 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 like to tell me something, and I'm on like with a high-end client or something like that. And this has been the greatest thing. This I found on eBay for like $5. It's fabulous. It's probably saved me like 20 clients over the years. So you can find these things out there. They're very fun.
it's beautiful.
Oh, I wouldn't say that,
um,
but it works great. But yeah, with a little remote switch, it's really nice. I can turn it on from my desk, and it's good.
all right, everyone. Big ups to Jason, and let's welcome James. Oh my gosh, I think it's Romick and not Romick. James Romick. I think that's how I do it. Um,
Siobhan, he's unable to unmute.
he's communicating to me. Okay.
He's unable
Oh,
to unmute.
it's because I went I went hard on everybody. But I think you are able to unmute, but um hello, James. I've given you some powers to make a co-host, and then I think we can hear. Oh, and then here you want this. You want this. I'm on it. Here we go. And now I'm going to remove this spotlight. Okay. Hey, James. And now I'm going to do this. Is that what you want? No. All good?
Oh,
There
there
we
you go.
go.
Hey,
You got me now?
Yeah.
we do. Hi, James.
Okay. Well, my setup is not quite as sophisticated as Jason's, but let me show you what I have here. I'm
Hey,
going to dive right into it.
James, can you just tell us very briefly about you?
About me, I was a stage actor for most of my working life for about 40 years. And once Broadway didn't want me anymore, I wanted to find out what I could do with my voice because I was a musical comedy person. So I investigated voiceover through Edge Studio, and we've been together since I think 2014 or so, or 2013 or so. So that's when I started voiceover, and I got an agent before I even had my demo cut. And I was starting to get a little bit of work, but I wasn't working regularly, going to auditions in the city. I didn't have a home studio set up yet, so I wasn't able to audition from home. But when I started investigating audiobooks, I discovered that I needed a home studio because I had to record at home. So I started building some stuff. I designed and built my studio myself. So I am going to show you what I got here. All right. As I enter my room, which is the older part of my house, which was built in 1887, this was actually, I think, a nursery. And it's a very, very tiny room. I have my little recording sign to let my neighbors know that I'm recording, so they have to be quiet, which they don't. I fight landscapers, weed whackers. This is the show that I used to be in that I'm not in anymore. It closed. That's me at 2.5 years old for Christmas in my Zorro costume. I got this little sign up here to let my wife know when I'm recording so they don't make noise. And this is my workstation. So this is where I do a lot of editing, and I also have a talkback system so I can talk to somebody who's in my booth recording, which came in handy because my wife did her first audiobook last month. So I was directing her while I was recording. And let me kind of zoom in here because I'm just going to show you this very briefly. When I first started, I had something that looked like this. And it was over in the corner here. It was a very tiny booth, and it was about the size of a shower stall. It fit my big body in there, and that's it. I remember sending David a recording from in there, and he says, "You're recording in a very tiny space, aren't you?" And I said, "How the hell does he know that?" But he did, and I figured after a while, I did about 25 audiobooks in this space. And I figured out after a while that I needed a little bit more room. So I started in this corner of the room here. I only had three power outlets in this room, and that's one that I had to use. So I actually built a platform, and there's insulation underneath that platform to keep the vibration because the kitchen is right underneath me here. So I don't want refrigerator noise. I don't want dishwasher noise. And so there's insulation inside that box. And I started building things on top of that box. I'm on the second floor here, so I had to build everything out in my driveway and bring it up the stairs. So I had to do it modular. So it's all in bits and pieces. I used Safe and Sound for the installation and the stud bays. When I was in high school, I worked for a guy who built houses. So I know basic construction techniques. And I also am a big This Old House devotee. So there's that outlet again there. And I used the stuff on the inside. I didn't like drywall, so I used this stuff called homicide. What it is 1/2-inch thick ground newspaper, which is pressed into 4x8 sheets, and you can cut it with a utility knife and a straight edge. And it's a lot easier to work with, and it's a lot lighter than a drywall. I just hate hanging drywall. So that's what's on the inside there. You can see the opening for the window, and you can probably see those little tubes. I have an air exchange system, which brings air in and takes air out. They're very slow moving fans, but that particular wall where the air exchange hoses are, the hoses are snaked. So with each bend in the hose, it cuts down the dB little by little. So there's one for intake and there's one for exhaust. There's the window installed. So this is my workstation, which I just showed you as I walked into the room. There's the door, which we'll go into in just a second. I found this stuff. It's called Echo Eliminator. And what it is recycled cotton. I don't like using foam, but cotton is a very sound absorbing material. And for audiobooks in particular, we need as dead a space as we can possibly get. So I found a guy on eBay that was selling this stuff for about half price of the manufacturer. And I bought a box full, 10 panels, 2x4 panels that come this way. And this is how I put them in there. You can see that that's on the inside. Over the Homosote, I actually stapled on wool blankets, Army surplus blankets. So that's what the darker material is. Truth be told, I did use foam on the ceiling. But this is wrapped around the corner in the back corner there. This is the bottom. I put a shelf in there. There's the inside window trimmed out as same as the outside window. And this is where I sit and do my audiobooks. I also have Bill the cat that I have been hanging around for quite a long time, and I didn't know where to put him. So he's up in the corner there just watching me narrate. And I use Reaper. I love Reaper. I use Reaper. Anybody wants to know anything about Reaper, talk to me. And thank you for watching. So let's go into the booth. I'm also a woodworker, so I have a woodworking memorabilia in here too. Levels and saws and all kinds of other kind of neat things in here. But I'm going in, this is the door. I actually found a solid core door at Home Depot. It's a 24-inch door with in a frame. And what I did was I put a double thickness of Homosote on the inside of the door. So you can see that it is thicker right here. And I had to screw it onto the door. And this is actually foam. Then this is left over from my old booth. I cannibalized what I could use. So if I go in to my booth, there's my little seat. And I'm in my booth and I'm going to sit down. And it's nice and quiet in here. Now, when I sit down, I can see out my window. That's looking into my house at my workstation, which is right down there. And as I'm sitting in here, I can't reach the door handle. And when I'm editing in here, sometimes I have to shut the door so I can make a pickup, and then I open the door because it gets hot in here. So I have to, the fan doesn't cool anything. It just is an air exchanger, so I don't suffer from oxygen deprivation. But what I do is I made this little monkey paw cord, which is up to here, and it's on this little hook and attached to the door that I can shut. And then I can reach the handle and pull it shut. You'll see there's weather stripping around the door. And there's my little Reaper logo up there. And I have the same equipment, sorry about that, inside the booth as I have on the outside. There's my controller. There's a wireless keyboard and my mouse. They don't make this mouse anymore. I love this mouse because it's a 3-button mouse. It's totally programmable, but the scroll wheel is on the thumb. So I don't have to move, these fingers to do anything. All I have to do is click, but the scroll wheel is on the thumb. And unfortunately, they don't make this mouse anymore. Love it. But all of the buttons on here are programmable. As you can see, I've got them all programmed for certain, let me see if I can get it up here, certain functions that I can label. And when I'm using my left hand over here and my right hand over here, it's like playing the piano. The muscle memory kicks in, and I'm doing punch and roll very efficiently that way. Let me see if I can just get rid of some of the stuff on the screen here.
James, let me ask a question.
Sure.
There may be some people on this call who don't know what punch and roll is. Can you explain that?
Punch and roll is as you're going along. If you make a mistake, there's this thing called a pre-roll, and you can program your DAW. Most DAWs do punch and roll now. Even Adobe Audition didn't for the longest time, and now it does. But what it is, when you make a mistake, instead of doing the dog clicker thing, you make a noise or something like this, and then you go back and you try to edit that noise out. What happens with audiobooks, and I've heard this from many, 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 many audiobook engineers, is oftentimes those clicks will stay in, or people will forget to take them out, or a second take will automatically still be in the recording when they send it to the audio engineer. But punch and roll is correcting your mistakes as you go. And a lot of people don't like it because, oh, it takes me out of the moment. I don't buy that. I don't buy that actory excuse, because if anything, it keeps you in the moment. Because if you, and I encourage people to do this, talk along with yourself during the pre-roll until you get to that punch point, and then you just keep on talking. You get into the same acting intention, you get into the same volume, you get into the same pacing, you get into all of that good stuff. And if you edit it very well, it's like you never made that mistake. And I'm that good. I can do that. I am a damn good editor. This is a little power strip that I have here. Every one of these buttons controls something in here. And you can see there's a conduit. But punch and roll, if you're doing audiobooks, you owe it to yourself to learn how to perform punch and roll. It will save you at least a third of your editing time on the back end. Jason mentioned the Rode boom arms. I have two microphones set up in here on two different boom arms. The reason to get a Rode boom arm like this, instead of the ones with the springs, first of all, the springs loosen up over time, so they won't hold your microphone. But the other thing too is there's this thing called sympathetic vibration, that on certain frequencies of your voice, it will vibrate those springs and it will sound like reverb. There used to be this thing, a physical implement in a recording studio called a echo reverb, a spring reverb unit. And that's exactly what it was. There were springs inside that unit that caused reverb. So don't go cheap and get the ones with the springs on it. Get the ones that are enclosed like this. This is my TLM 102 that I'm narrating my current book on. And this one is, I narrated my previous book on. This is a Studio Projects C1 that I had modified by the good people out in California. It's at MikeParts.com. And supposedly the frequency response of this microphone now is the same as U87. So, and it sounds really nice. And there's Bill up there. Oh, I also have an LED light strip along the ceiling, and it's on a dimmer. So, you know, if I need mood lighting in here, I can turn it down a little bit if I want to. And there's my door again. I don't have any bass traps in here because I don't think I need them. This Echo Eliminator cotton stuff, instead of putting bass traps in the corner here, I just folded it in the corner. So it's actually a little bit rounder. And this egg crate pattern breaks frequencies up. So it is very, 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 very quiet in here. You can see up in the corner, well, you can't see it because I have it covered up just to filter out some dust, but that's where the exhaust fan or the exhaust port is. And the intake port is way down. You can't see it because there's not enough light down there, but it's down all near the floor. This is where a lot of my mics live, down on the floor here. I have, over the years, I think I've used and bought and sold maybe 20 different microphones. And I've settled on, especially this TLM 102. I like it quite a lot because it can be a little bit brittle on top for some people, but for me, for my voice, it picks up a lot of the low mellow tones and it stays that way. The other thing too is, truth be told, I breathe rather loudly, and breathing very loud on audiobooks is not a good thing. So I do use a debreather. And for this particular microphone, the Waves debreather that I use picks up 90 to 95% of my overly loud breath sounds and knocks them down about 8 dB, which is good for me. And the ones that doesn't catch, I do it by hand. I use, let's see, I use Reaper as my DAW, and I have modified it because I like a lot of colors. So that's what my Reaper looks like. One of the things that I'm really proud of with my Reaper is, if you'll look at this playback meter right here, I actually got into the code and I started doing some really kind of nasty things. So it's got this really nice groovy meter, goes from a cool blue all the way up to a flaming red if you're clipping, which I don't do. You're not supposed to do in audiobooks. And I do use Isotope RX to clean things up that I know that I couldn't clean up any other way. And the nice thing between this is there's kind of a handshake between Reaper and Isotope RX, where I can have both of these open at the same time, like this. I can take this particular recording. I have a little button up here that I press, and I can send this recording over to Isotope. And if there's a little bit of noise right here, I can just paint that out, and then I overwrite the original file. I send it back over to Reaper, and when I go back into Reaper, it's corrected. And I do this all day. Questions? Anybody?
James, thank you so much for your presentation. The first question is about your cotton panels and what the name of them is.
They are called Echo Eliminator. If you go on their website, I don't know whether they sell the egg crate version anymore, but they do sell the solid panels in different thicknesses and in different colors. But they're 95% cotton, and they smell like blue jeans. That's another thing with a foam. It off gases for an awful long time, and it deteriorates over time. And I just don't like the smell of it. But going in here, it smells like blue jeans.
Blue jeans. This is from Jason, who has had trouble using a deep breather. He finds it cuts off sound and it shouldn't.
Yeah, it's very, very tricky to set up. It's very, very tricky to set up. But once you get it set up, what I do is I set it up on my first chapter and then I leave it alone. And if it's cutting off some of the ends of the words, one of the things that I will do, say that it cut off the end of this word, I have a custom action like a macro and other parlance, but I can highlight this little piece, say that that's something that it cut off. I can highlight the end of that word and then I can bump it up. So to a point where the deep breather won't catch it. But it's fine tuning. It's micro work. I don't usually have to do that a lot, but occasionally I do, because the deep breather thinks that like an aspiration at the end of a word, like his, it thinks that that is a breath, which it is, but it will cut that his, the end of that off. So I have to bump it up a little bit. But yeah, the Waves deep breather is probably the best one out there. The breath control module on Isotope RX is crap. I wouldn't use that. I would let my mother use that. But the Waves deep breather is the most effective one that I have found for me, for the way that I do things.
James, what about a gate instead of a deep breather?
Nope. Never, ever, 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 ever use a gate, a noise gate, a true noise gate when you're doing audiobooks. Do not do that. Here's why. Think of it this way. You are sitting in a room with a single light source. And that single light source, the walls and the ceiling and the floor is all painted in these nice psychedelic colors. And when you are talking, the light is on. And when you are not talking, the light is off, and that room is pitch black. Try sitting in that room for the course of an audiobook. Try sitting in that room for 10 minutes. You would go out of your frigging mind. And it's what happens when you use a noise gate, is there is still noise underneath your voice, but when that noise gate kicks in, it slams the door on the noise, and you get what's called a pumping effect. And it's very disturbing. The listeners don't know what it is, but it's very disturbing to listen to, which is why I preach never, ever, ever, ever use a true noise gate for audiobooks. There's this thing called a downward expander, which gradually lowers the volume and gradually brings it back up, but it never gets to absolute digital silence, which is what a noise gate does. It causes that pumping effect. I do use a downward expander.
What about using RX to fix room noise, AC, etc., or say breath noise, pops? Trying to get better spectral
You
editing.
can do things surgically with RX, and I do some things surgically. Like there was something that I just was fixing today. I had a truck that went up the street, and I know there was a truck hum in this thing, and I surgically removed that. And the way that I do that is, you can see that there's, let me see, I have to reverse my camera here, but you can see brighter colors is noise, and this is just low end rumble down here. Now I could remove that, but what I do is put a high pass filter on this, and that will take care of most of that. It'll take a lot of that rumble away, high pass filter EQ. But to say that the truck noise was at a little bit of a higher frequency up here, that I don't want to use a high pass filter to affect my natural vocal frequencies. So I will surgically remove that by using something called a spectral repair module. And I will isolate that sound, and I will remove that surgically. A lot of these things, a lot of people want it all, set it and forget it, and it's not always that way.
Got it. Okay, one more question.
Sure.
Regarding who you did or did not play in Phantom of the Opera. That I know all the words.
I covered all the men in the show. I was what was known as a swing. I did 379 performances of the Phantom. I did close to 150 performances as Raoul. I did probably 700 each of the two managers. The only person that I didn't really understudy was the fat tenor. And they asked me to, and I refused 3 times because I just didn't want to do it. I didn't want to go through all that rehearsal to do it. And my high C it's there, but it's not that pretty. So I didn't want to embarrass myself. But I was told, had I done that and gone on one time as an understudy for the fat tenor, I would have been the only male on Broadway ever to cover and perform every single role in a musical.
Wow, that's amazing. As a child, I dream it. It's not it's a gendered thing, but I dreamed of playing Phantom myself. Maybe when you were on,
listen, they did a 1776 with, reverse gender. Why not?
You're right. It's coming. It's going to come back around in a couple of years.
Sure.
I heard.
I may not be alive when it happens, but sure. Well,
I heard that the final weekend on Broadway,
it
was like Woodstock. Like it was like the most amazing, experience to be there. But okay, love to see it. What a time, y'all. Thank you for being with us. We are fairly like on schedule here. I do think I had one last question I want to ask Jason really quickly, which was about, and because I like this question, Jason, what software do you use to integrate the audio and video?
I saw that question, and because I usually use 2 different software. I use for our audio, I'm always using Adobe Audition. And for the video, it depends on what the use is, right? I mean, if it's Zoom, if I'm doing a Zoom meeting, it's through Zoom. I was using for a while the software that you can do multi-screening and things like that. It just got a little too complicated. So I just prefer to use, the tools that are built into the software that you're using.
I mean, diplomatic answer, we love it. Okay. So as we wrap this up, everybody, this evening programming, do y'all like the late nights? How are we feeling? We used to do these during the day. Well, not this session, but all of our stuff is in the evenings now. This has been brought to you by Edge Studio, and we encourage you to check out our education department and our upcoming classes, as well as booking any one-on-one coaching for your home studio. It can be done here at Edge. If you follow this link to get one-on-one help to build out your studio. We also, of course, offer home studio one-on-one. as well as DAW specific, digital audio workstation specific courses. So gosh, it's always a pleasure. James, it's been great to meet you. I didn't know we had Phantom in common. I'm really happy about that. I have some signed posters even. I love it so much. So, and Jason, wonderful to see you again. As always, David, any last words from you?
You know, every one of these episodes, I am floored. You guys rock. Thank you so much. Duncan Shields is on this call, and he showed off his studio last month. His studio also is fabulous, and I would encourage you all to go to our YouTube page, because all of these are uploaded on our YouTube page, and they're all so different. Like James and Jason, your studios both have like such high quality output, but looking at them, they're just so different looking, the way they're set up, the way they're organized, the colors. You guys can all personalize your studios as long as you end up with a good result, good high quality audio. And Duncan's studio, yet another look, right? But it has such like wonderful output. So yeah, I would encourage you to go to our YouTube page and watch a bunch of these videos. And yeah, I don't know. If you like this, you know, you should I would love this. Send us an email telling us if you like these home studio show and tells, and tell us what you like about them. I'd love to hear. If you have suggestions or thoughts on upcoming ones, let us know. If any of you want to show off your studio, let us know. We can try to schedule you on. I know we already have the next 2 or 3 episodes full with some great guests coming up. But yeah, any thoughts you may have, anything to say about these, I'd love to hear it. You can email it to training@edgestudio.com. Again, training@edgestudio.com. Really important. And Siobhan, I know you'll talk about this, but if you want to download, or Siobhan, why don't you talk about downloading the chat?
Fabulous. If you would like to save the chat from today's sesh, you may do that by clicking the ellipses at the bottom on a desktop at the bottom of your chat panel. You'll see it's next to the emojis, and the top option, you will see there is a save chat option. It will save it in a very plain text format onto your computer, and then you can keep all of that here. So y'all, upcoming next is our this is home studio, our Ask Me Anything, which will be on Thursday, June 15th at the same bat time, which would be 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Everybody else, I trust you can figure out what time that is, because I definitely don't know. Bruce, it's great to see you. Ellen, thank you. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. And thank you again to our guests. I mention this, I try to mention this every time, but all of the guests we have on these episodes are donating their time. So they're just here of the goodness of their hearts, and that's what community means to us. And so we're so grateful to bring everybody together in an effort to do that. So be well, y'all. See you in 2 weeks' time, and hopefully enjoy. It's like dark and gloomy in LA, and then I think it's like fiery on the other side. So hang in there, y'all. Hang in there, and we will see you in 2 weeks. And once again, just another round of applause for our guests today.
And a shout out to Siobhan also, please.